What's up everyone, Mysteriocity again appearing on your screens, this time today bringing you a video on the disappearance of Melissa Brannen. Melissa Brannen was a 5-year-old girl who disappeared from a Christmas party in Lorton, Virginia at the Woodside apartment complex on December 3rd of 1989. Melissa Brannen was the daughter of Tammy Brannen. Tammy Brannen and Melissa had been transplants to the Virginia area for 3 years after Tammy had gotten a divorce from her husband in Texas and moved away to start a new chapter in her life. She worked out of an accounting firm, and all seemed to be going well for them, but on December 3rd, as per tradition, the apartment complex hosted its annual Christmas party where all of the residents of the apartment complex were invited, and some 200 residents attended the party, including Tammy and Melissa Brannen. It was like most other social gatherings and Christmas parties that would be held, except the night of December 3rd, 1989, was a night that changed the life of Tammy Brannen and will forever go down as a dark time for this usually cheery and crime-free apartment complex. During the night, Tammy Brannen engaged in various social activities, mainly striking up conversations with fellow residents, talking about life and things and whatnot. Melissa mainly engaged in playing with other children. As the party was winding down, Tammy had noticed that Melissa had just seemed to up and disappeared. At first, it was thought that maybe Melissa was just off somewhere, maybe she went to use the bathroom, maybe she was playing hide and seek, since there were a lot of children at the party. Children like playing hide and seek. But that was until they searched the whole community building, could not find any trace of Melissa anywhere. But what they did find was that in a utility room in the back of the building, there was an open window leading out into a wooded area behind the apartment complex. This was on a harshly cold winter night, and just the thought that Melissa, while doing something, perhaps managed to roll up the window and find her way outside, wearing at most a light jacket for protection, sent waves of concern for all partygoers of the night, and for most of all, Melissa's own mother, Tammy Brannen. Law enforcement was called, and right away a search party began to find 5-year-old Melissa Brannen before something very unfortunate could happen to her. But as investigators looked more into the scene and more into the circumstances surrounding the entire event, foul play started to be considered a possibility. This was primarily due to how the patrol officers who responded to the scene and the detectives began questioning every single guest that attended the party that night, and even the some 400 other residents who did not attend the party. Eventually, they got around to Caleb Hughes, who is the main apartment complex maintenance worker who had attended the party during that night. The police tried to contact Caleb Hughes and get a hold of him at home. However, the first couple of tries, he did not answer his phone. He lived in a residence some only 2 miles away from the apartment complex. He had returned home at around 2 a.m. Now keep in mind, the party abruptly ended at around 11 p.m. A few hours earlier, the detectives began questioning Caleb Hughes, who at first stated that he took the long way home, and that's why he did not arrive home until a few hours later. Now right away, red flags were sent up, and Caleb Hughes' alibi was littered with discrepancies. First of all being that Caleb Hughes had stated that as he was in the vicinity of his home, he stopped by the liquor store to pick up a 6-pack. However, since he got home at around 2 a.m., you can imagine that he stopped by the liquor store between 1:30 a.m. and 2 a.m. However, this was impossible because at the time the state of Virginia stopped selling liquor past 12 a.m. It was a state mandate. The detectives questioning him then asked if they could inspect his laundry, which he allowed them to, and the detectives right away noticed suspiciously that Caleb Hughes had thrown his entire outfit into the washer, and among the shirt and pants and other garments he was wearing, his belt, knife holster, and shoes were also in the washing machine, along with the rest of his clothing that he wore that night at the party. It's just something that raises eyebrows, because most of us wouldn't think to throw, just our shoes, let alone our belt and our knife holster, into the washing machine with our other clothing. Detective Wilden, one of the investigators, then got around to accusing Caleb Hughes of abducting Melissa Brannen, Caleb Hughes' only response to this was, "Prove it." No one in their right mind who is completely innocent of committing such a crime would think to say something like, "Prove it," straight to a detective's face. So Caleb Hughes was immediately considered the prime suspect, and all fingers started to be pointed at him. And also, something that I hadn't mentioned, Hughes originally stated that he had no contact with Melissa Brannen, that he did not speak to her or her mother. However, multiple witnesses at the party saw Caleb Hughes multiple times having communicated with Melissa Brannen. On the forensic side of the case against Caleb Hughes was really not one thing that could 100% confirm that he was responsible for Melissa's abduction, but there were some mightily strong pieces of evidence. The strongest forensic evidence was blue acrylic man-made fibers found in the passenger seat of his car. These fibers were traced down to the Big Bird Sesame Street sweater that Melissa had been wearing on the night of the party. Now, it's important to note here, this wasn't just any old Sesame Street sweater. This was a sweater manufactured by JCPenney and sold as a catalog-only item during the previous year's Christmas season. JCPenney had a lot invested in this line of sweaters, matter of fact, as they didn't want to just add in any old standard dye to create the color tone of the sweater. They actually set out on creating their own. So they partnered with numerous manufacturers and third-party associates who had assisted JCPenney into creating a new color. They trademarked this color as Plum Navy 887. There were only 7,000 of these particular sweaters sold to the public, and no sweater of the same cloth, no pun intended, had been sold since the previous year's holiday season. JCPenney had also not used this particular color on any of their other clothing items or any of the other items, period, that they sold. Now, since Melissa was missing, they could not find her exact sweater that she was wearing to compare samples to, but they did track down the same kind of sweater from another customer who had it stuffed away in his closet somewhere and had never been worn. They used this sweater to compare with the blue acrylic fibers found in Caleb Hughes' car, and it was a perfect match. This sweater was particularly made for children. Those blue fibers could have only come from those children's line of sweaters. Even if you don't take into account Melissa Brannen and the possibility that she was in Caleb Hughes' car, why would Caleb Hughes have a children's sweater in his vehicle when considering Caleb Hughes did not have children of his own? There were other less definitive pieces of evidence that strongly indicated Caleb Hughes was the perpetrator of the crime, including 3 rabbit hairs found in Caleb Hughes' vehicle. Those 3 questioned rabbit hairs were compared to a fur coat made of rabbit hair that Tammy Brannen, Melissa's mother, had worn on the night of the party, and they were microscopically similar. So that's another thing that could infer that Melissa Brannen had transferred those rabbit hairs from her mother's coat onto her, and then when she was in Caleb Hughes' vehicle, she had shed them off, and they found their way onto Caleb Hughes' passenger seat and floor mats. There was a potential smoking gun that could never be fitted together to make one whole piece. This was how trace amounts of blood were lifted off of Caleb Hughes' steering wheel, foot pedals, and floor mats with luminol. Now, the blood could not be compared with Melissa Brannen, obviously, because Melissa's blood sample was not on record anywhere. The only way they could compare this blood to Melissa was if they had a body. Therefore, they had blood present in Caleb Hughes' vehicle, but they had no sample to match that blood to. To this day now, 31 years after the disappearance occurred, Melissa Brannen's body has unfortunately never been found. It's quite a sad state of affairs because it's bad enough that a mother has to lose her child in this manner, but it's like an insult to injury when they can't even give the victim a proper burial because the primary suspect of the crime refuses to disclose the location of where he disposed of Melissa Brannen's body. So as a result of this, Caleb Hughes could not be charged with homicide since the state of Virginia recognized that there was not enough evidence for proof of murder. Therefore, Caleb Hughes was charged the maximum sentence given the circumstances, and that was kidnapping with intent to defile. The maximum sentence that could be bestowed upon Hughes for this charge was 50 years in prison without the possibility of parole. He was sentenced to prison in 1991, served 28 years of his 50-year sentence, and was just released from prison. Not paroled, mind you. He was fully released last year for good behavior. He is currently living in a halfway house in Lynchburg, Virginia, and he's held 3 different jobs since being released from prison. One of them was a cosmetic manufacturer, one of them was an office job, and the other was a staffer at Burger King. He was registered into Virginia's database as a registered sex offender, so it's made even more odd by how he could land a job at Burger King, working around a ton of children that enter the establishment every day. The search for Melissa's body is still going on today, perhaps not quite as strong as it was initially back in 1989, but there are still small search parties gathered every now and then that go out and hunt for Melissa Brannen's body. It leads you on to hoping that one day they will somehow turn up Melissa Brannen's body, although after someone has been missing this long, the possibility of finding any remains of their body are second to none. If Caleb Hughes had taken Melissa Brannen and, let's say, buried her underground, then due to the ever-changing climate and rain, snow, landslides, heat, whatnot, affecting the climate and thus altering the orientation of someone's remains that were left in a particular location and spreading them out over a longer distance, which makes it extremely difficult to find any remains left of that victim, let alone an entire body. I would still hope that they do find Melissa Brannen's body one day so her family can have proper closure. I do think Caleb Hughes is responsible. I do think Caleb Hughes kidnapped Melissa Brannen from that party, threw her out the window, threw her in his vehicle, made off with her, probably sexually assaulted her, killed her, and disposed of her body in a place that no one has been able to find. Caleb Hughes right now is 54 years old as I'm recording this. He's not quite the young man he was when he committed the crime, but at the age of 54, you could very easily infer that he could strike again, and I don't have any proof of this, but who's to say that he has not done it already? So anyway, I want to know what you think about this entire case. Do you have your own theories behind the disappearance and probable murder of Melissa Brannen? Do you think Caleb Hughes is responsible? Whatever those thoughts and whatever those opinions, be sure to leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow me on social media. I would recommend Twitter the most because that is where I'm the most socially active. And if you have any mysterious footage you've captured, whether photo or video from whatever kind of device, send it to me via my email, which will be posted in the description below or in the outro card at the end of this video. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, show support, and I will return it by giving you guys the best content that I can possibly deliver. So thank you all for watching, and until next time, peace out!